Not a good night tonight. Tonight was not our night by any means. It was the Dockers 14 goals, 13.97 to the Blues 9 goals, 8.62.
I can't hear you that well, but I'll just say my piece and be done with it.
Sure.
That was shit.
Yeah, we're just not giving our forwards a chance at all to mark it. No matter how good they are, they can't mark if it's being bombed in the air. And, there's 3 defenders all around them surrounding in a big pack. They can't mark.
Saw today what happens when you're under pressure. These guys lose total faith in what they're about. And I was screaming in the second half. Do you know what I mean? Play your way.
We just had no run, and then we resorted back to, kicking it inside the forward 50, just bombing it inside there.
They, outside of Melbourne, I think they've got the best defensive system in football. You have to give them, before anything else, full credit tonight. I thought by and large they were outstanding.
So it's good to see in terms of the coaching box that something different was applied. It didn't work. It might have been too little too late, whatever, or just not the right structural arrangement for us.
Yeah, I think we just have too many dumb footballers. We've got the talent, but we just got too many dumb footballers, I reckon.
At the back, every entry inside 50 would always be a bomb, right? Never kicking to space. And our small forwards were practically non-existent, I thought. I'd like to see Motlop get a go, I think.
Yeah, it was carbon copy of the Gold Coast loss for me. Midfield couldn't get on top, and it just nothing else came from it. But it's happened twice now, so now it's on Voss and it's on the coaches to make the change.
It was a reality check.
Oh wow! Oh Jerry, I'm gonna go for a dart, mate. I'll catch you later.
You go have a dart, mate. Enjoy. Toby.
G'day, Tez. How are you, man?
Mate, been better, but been worse.
When we're trying to transition, goal square, short kick to back pocket, long down the line, rinse and repeat. I didn't see anyone try anything different, and that's what was just doing my head in. It's the lack of a plan B.
We don't want it to get away from us where it gets too far.
Yeah. This game against Carlton was a real measuring stick sort of game. So for us to show up, give a pretty decent 4-quarter effort, kick the ball straight. We took our chances. Like I was saying on the preview, we need to take our chances, and we did. 4-quarter effort, didn't shy away. I thought at the start of the 4th quarter we were a bit flat, and I thought you guys could sort of come into it. Paddy Cripps was putting the team on the back. He was so good to watch him.
And that was that. Welcome to the Blue Abroad show. End of round 6, start of round 7. I've got Paolo with me. Hello, mate.
A very good evening to you and the audience out there. Round 6 loss, but let's get into it, dissect it, see where we went right, where we went wrong, and hopefully we can provide a bit of therapy for the guys on a Monday night.
I think so. I think I sense there's a bit more to talk about this week. Just I don't know why. I think we've played 6 games now. We're well and truly into the thick of the season. We've got plenty of data now to understand what's happening. Have we got any trends that are starting to emerge? And I think opinions are starting to get divided as to whether we're going on the right track or not. But nonetheless, plenty of discussion tonight.
Yeah, heaps of it. And it's interesting you say that, how there seems to sort of be, I don't know if there's a real division between anyone, but I found that even during the fan cams, I put my hand up and said I just needed to take a step back for the night. I needed to calm myself and compose myself. And I think looking back at the fan cams, I don't think there is an overall sentiment within the fan base that we are hopeless or it's as bad as last year or anything like that. I think the reaction to our losses have been far more measured by everyone. And I feel like that's wearing off on the club as well. I feel like our approach to losses have been far more measured because of what we've been able to implement, I think, in the first sort of month and a half and in the preseason as well. So, look, I mean, I've written down a whole heap of things here during the game, what we can do, what we can't do, what we need to work on and what we can improve going forward. So, look, it's a public holiday. It's a Monday. I think people are sort of itching to get back into football. I know there are big games today, but I think that the beauty about us at the moment is that we during that lot, like you kind of want us to play footy again. I think you want us to get back out there and see what the response is. So we'll see what happens, eh?
For sure. We're going to go high level in a moment. Let's go back to the game. Now that the emotions have subsided, everyone's had a couple of nights sleep. We look back on it. We've seen the rest of the round play out the way it's played out. I'll ask the question, as I ask every week for everyone in the audience, just to sum up in 3 words what round 6 was for the Carlton Football Club. And Paul, what was your summation of what happened?
Mine was in a 3-word. I've had a couple of 3-word. I was thinking about this all day because I knew you were going to ask this question. And the one thing that really came to mind, and this is not an attack on the players. It's not an attack on their characteristics or the way that they are or the way that they approach their football. But I just thought as a whole in that game, cowardly ball use, I think, is the way to sum up that game. I thought we were so safe after quarter time, and Pommy and I were on the phone today and yesterday talking about it. We just had no dash or dare from the defensive line, and there was from the second quarter through to maybe about the 5-minute mark of the last term, there was no willingness to take the game on. I know, again, it's such a simple way of looking at it, but there was just no energy, no buzz, no one from behind a bloke who'd taken a mark wanting to run and carry and take that risky kick into the middle. And it was funny, when we actually tried to do that and when we had a little bit of dare and flow in our game, we actually were in front at quarter time. And for some reason or another, it just completely went away, which was annoying. So, yeah, I thought our ball movement coming out of the back half and trying to go forward was pretty meek and pretty dire, I thought.
Yeah, I really misjudged the whole game. It wasn't until I thought about it afterwards that, upon reflection, I really did think we were in the game for a lot longer than what we probably were. I just thought it was an arm wrestle. Thought, especially in the first half, just an arm wrestle, good game of footy. 2 solid teams up there, thereabouts. Both of us are the top 6 at the time. Both of us have had a good start to the season. Obviously, Freo on their home deck. I was really confident going into the game that if we just played at our best, we'd be good enough. But it just became evident we had the spark in certain parts of our game, but we didn't have the spark in other parts. And I remember the fan cams, the notion of the long bomb kicking, and it just seems to be creeping back into our minds. And I wonder, is this just a concentration thing? Are we not able to handle the heat and stick to what we know? Are we a little bit rattled when things happen mid-game, like with Pitto, which we'll touch on?
Yeah, I think it's a case too of Harry and Charlie and those blokes up the line having that star factor. So you I think you gravitate towards them. And when stuff's not going your way and you've hemmed yourself away up against the boundary line and you have to go long, you kind of look for blokes like that. And they're the outlet to be hitting when you have to go long. But the problem is, Charlie's only one person and Harry was on one leg and couldn't jump and couldn't reach. So, that type of safe kick was just completely null and void once Harry went down and once Pitternet went down, and, De Koning was taking the ruck duty, and he hasn't been on form aerially. I thought he was okay though on Saturday night. And I actually don't think Pitternet going down hurt us that much, because we actually did end up winning. We won clearances by, I think, 4 or 5. So, the one wood was there that we all talk about. And I don't think it was for a lack of effort or anything like that. I just think it was a real lack of smarts and a real lack of courage and bravery to want to take the game on. I thought our back 6 were really poor with ball in hand. They didn't want to hit that target through the corridor. And granted, look, Fremantle, credit to them, they did cut off, and that's been our kryptonite, cutting off the corridor and trying to make us go wide. But I thought we were super disappointing with the way we approached the game in the second half. It was like we set up not to lose, if that makes sense, rather than going out there and trying to pile on 8, 10, 12 goals in the second half. Granted, maybe we didn't have the cattle to do it, but you still have to set up that way. I mean, we were in the game at halftime. So, yeah, my fear as well is a lack of response in-game when things aren't going our way. Because remember I said to you last week how Cripps went down in the Gold Coast game and we just looked flat. We knew he wasn't going to play the game against Port Adelaide, and the midfield sort of stepped up. I know Port Adelaide come home with a wet sail, but you can kind of plan for it during the week. And yeah, look, it's a very, very disappointing result. And I think it's incumbent of where we're at the moment. I don't think we're a top 4 side. Probably don't think we're a top 6 side, but we're probably on the precipice of the 8, sort of in between maybe 7th to 11th, something like that. I think that's where we are at the moment.
Yeah, it's fascinating how the season's playing out and the storylines are starting to emerge. You've got a couple of teams that have really fallen off from what we thought they would be. I think when you think about the Dogs and you think about Port Adelaide, these are teams that most people probably would have had in that top 4, top 5 category. The Eagles are dropping off quite a bit now, and you start to see, I mean, I know it's very early in the season, but I start to see, opportunity. Like some of these teams who a lot of us penned in to that top 8 are no longer there for the taking. And I think you're right. I mean, overall, I think I'll know a little bit more about this loss in round 7, if that makes sense, because we sort of responded from the week before after when we beat Port Adelaide after losing to the Suns. And I just think we're on that track. We're going to be riding like a pinball machine back and forth. I just sense it's going to be one of those years.
I think it is too. And I think what I've liked this year is that, I mean, we only have one sample size of it, but the Gold Coast game was really disappointing, and we did start really strongly against Port Adelaide, and it was the reason for our win. We responded with a win, and that's what you have to do. Granted, it might not have been as pretty as we probably expected it to be in the position we were at halftime against Port Adelaide. But I think it's funny that I think the response of our group is going to come when they're able to all settle together in a group for the next 3 to 4 days and really plan it out. There's still something lacking on game day, and I think it is leadership. And I was really disappointed in what Jacob Wiedering said during the week and his inability to back it up. I thought he was really poor with ball in hand. He just continually takes a safe option, and I love him more than anyone. He's one of my favourite players, but he's a bloke that leads by example, right? I don't think he's a real like, come on boys, let's go. I don't think he's that type of bloke. I think he's the type of fella who's going to do these sort of things like he did against Hawthorn, going back with the flight, and his teammates are going to look at that and think, Jesus, that's what I've got to do. And I think his disease on the weekend was continually going safe, and that just wore off on everybody else because he's the leader down there. And he said, we're going to own these third quarters and lift up, and the leadership is going to lift. And it really didn't. It really didn't.
It's funny you mentioned that. That was the first time this season where I heard a press conference or I listened to an interview that was done by one of our players where they've actually gone and declared something, which is something they haven't been doing this year yet. Like they really put themselves out there, and look, it didn't work out this week. Maybe it works out on another week, but I did notice that it was a real declaration, and I don't know if it was just to appease people. I don't know what it was. Maybe they were really that confident, but I think that inability to, I mean, we now have seen what we're going to be doing when we're playing at our best with that run and carry energy type game that we have. Yeah. So I wonder if that is exactly how we want to play each week, or if we're still trying to figure out how many minutes do we go down that avenue and how many minutes do we control the tempo.
Yeah, well, I just to rewind back on that, I don't think we have a lot of run and carry, and I don't think that's been our forte at all this year. I think we need to, and I know he's going to divide the fan base, but I think we need to get someone like a Paddy Dow into that midfield to just add a little bit more spark in there. Even when it's not going your way sometimes, like I think that ability to be able to break a line is crucial, and we can have that.
When we've been at our best, what does it look like for you this year? Our best football?
Our best football, I think, is when we are winning stoppages, winning clearances, gaining territory. And I think our best football is when Harry and Charlie are winning the aerial battle. And I'm not fussed if that is the way that you're going to set up your game, because that's their strength. That Harry and Charlie in the air are, almost unbeatable, really. But the problem is that opposition are there to stop that. And when that does break down, I'm not seeing the next layer or the next layers come in to try to alleviate the pressure of Harry and Charlie. So for me, I think the run and carry game really needs to be a layer that we continue to work on, because I don't think we have speed in the midfield. We do have speed off half back and in the back line, but I haven't seen that. I just haven't seen that. When the chips are down. Yeah.
I think the best I've seen us so far this year is really round 1, round 2 for the
I
first.
thought round 2 was our best game this year. I thought round
Yeah.
2 was. I know the doggies had that patch in the last quarter, but I love the way we used the width when the doggies cut off the corridor, and it was not 2 blokes going up on the wing like Charlie and Harry and just creating mayhem there. It was 1 bloke leading up, either Harry or Charlie, creating the space out the back, and that's where Jack Silvani, which he just sorely missed, mate. And I said it before. As soon as he was named out, I said it on your tweet. You are going to realise how much we miss this bloke, mate. He just makes that forward line function so much better. That lead hit up, that outlet that you're able to get from halfback, that exit kick that he allows you to have. Charlie and Harry can sit deep and do what they do. So, look, I hope we get him back as quickly as possible. Hopefully it's this week because he's just so important to our team.
Yeah. We haven't really got an update just yet on him or Pito, who we'll touch on now. Goes down a nasty knock. It actually happened just now in the Essendon Collingwood game as well. Grundy copped a knee right on the knee, and from what I heard in the press, obviously we haven't got a proper update, but they're thinking it could just be a corky. That would be a great result for us. I think it's a little bit worse.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of a knee-on-knee corky. I've heard of a knee-on-knee PCL injury.
Yes,
and I think that's what it is because it looks all over a PCL injury. Got him right under the kneecap there in that ligament area, and it looked pure PCL. He held it straight away. Wasn't able to run out, wasn't able to stretch. And Jack Martin had the exact same thing last year in the Collingwood game, late in the game when he went knee on knee with the defender and he missed with a PCL. I personally, even before the injury update comes out, I thought it was an 8 to 12 week just based on what happened with Jack Martin last year.
Yeah.
But I thought, and Fab just said, can you cork a ligament? Well, you can't cork a ligament. You can cork a muscle.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. But you can't cork a ligament or a kneecap. You can break a kneecap.
Thought it was a very interesting term to use for that because it looked like a clear collision injury.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, look, as I said, I don't think him going down really hurt us that much. I think it was just our inability to transition the ball from half back to half forward and get the inside 50s that we needed to be able to win the game. Because our inside 50 count was, I think it was like 56 to 38, something like that. And that just tells me that if we're getting pinned back in our back half, that is just a clear breakdown up the field because we're not able to win field territory and win field position. So, look, I will say, and to strip it back to what Voss said before we even started the season, he's adamant that we need to play a strong brand of contested football. That's what it has to be. We need to be strong at the contest, and that is going to be the first facet of what he develops at this club. That is your foundation. It's your underpinning area to win a premiership, period. That's being worked on in the first 6 weeks, and I think we've seen a stark improvement on it. There's been absolutely no doubt about it. No doubt about it. 4-2, our contested ball is so much better. Our clearances are so much better. But then now it's all about adding layers to that. Run and carry, opening the field up, using the width of the field. And that's not going to come. That's not going to come like that. You know, these blokes have been 2 to 4 years learning off, rubbish systems. So it's going to take a couple of months. It's new coach, but look, we're in a winning position. So, as long as we keep doing what we're doing at the contest, I think it's going to hold us in good stead, and we're going to be in most games this year. And that's what we've been asking for. Yeah,
I think winning the 3 in a row, it just helps in so many ways. And this is another reminder why it was important to start the season well, because you win 3 in a row, and then we've kind of gone loss, win, loss. So you start playing that back and forth game. For the majority of us, I think 11/12 wins was something that we wanted to see at the end of the year. And I think it's a race to 12 wins. And if we can get another little streak going in the next, 6 to 8 weeks of 3 in a row and really just put ourselves ahead, because it's starting to pile up. We're going to lose Pito for a while now. Things are going to start piling up, and the depth of the list is better, but still is not where it needs to be.
Yeah, and I think those wins earlier in the year as well, and the position we're in at the moment is you can look at it and say, and I just keep saying, you're not playing catch up. You've got margin for error. There are going to be days there are going to be games where you're not going to have the rub of the green the whole day, and that's understandable. Look, as I said, the result on the weekend, we don't accept it. It's unacceptable. It's disappointing. Everybody's frustrated. I was more frustrated than anyone on the weekend. I thought the performance was pretty abysmal, just from a bravery point of view and an ability to want to take the game on. But as you said, with the injuries and the depth being tested, what I've liked this year with the VFL team is that, look, Nunes and Cottrell were, I mean, what you see is what you get with them. They're good down at VFL level, but they're no good at AFL level, mate. And I'm not having a dip at them personally. People go, oh, you can't, but they were terrible on the weekend, mate. They were shocking on the weekend. Matthew Cottrell was, I cannot understand for the life of me how Lockie O'Brien does not get a constant game on that. I don't know why he got dropped. I'd love to know why he got dropped, because what he did, or what his weapon is, he's going inside forward 50. And there were 4 or 5 times Newman had the ball on the outside going forward of 50, going forward of centre in the last quarter, and he butchered every single kick. But no shallow entries, no penetration on the kick, and you give your forwards no hope.
There was a pretty strong reaction I felt from, because we had I think it was 10 players have less than 10 possessions, and I know possessions aren't everything, but within those 10 players, I think the majority of them fall within that category that we describe as the bottom 6. And there was that notion that our bottom 6, if you go back to round 1, our bottom 6 all played close to career best games, and it just goes to show what a difference it can make, because you can't really, I don't know, maybe you can blame the top liners. I don't think you can blame our better players for the majority of for what happened in round 6. I think maybe Zach Williams was pretty down on what he should be doing and what he has been doing. But I thought our good players were pretty good, and I thought our not so good players were pretty poor.
Yeah, it's funny. It's that, you would think, and to look at a team like Richmond, if Dustin Martin was to have 32 touches and 3 goals, they're winning a game, aren't they?
Yeah.
Paddy Cripps has 32 and 3 goals, and we've lost by 35 points.
Yeah.
So, it's nothing to do with him. As I said, I really, really think the plague was started by our inability of our halfback flankers and our ball users in the back half to not want to take the risky kick.
Yeah.
No risk, no reward, mate. And that's it. We were just there. It was almost like we were resigned to defeat. It's like, okay, well, we've put ourselves in this situation. I don't want to be the one to make the mistake and cost us the game. So I'm just going to go safe and go long up the line. And it's just eventually death by 1,000 cuts if you continually do that. And Voss, I think it was Wiedering who made mention of it. I'd love to know how many times he mentioned a thing called in, out, in, which is ball comes inside your defensive 50, goes back out, and then it comes straight back in. Love to know how many times that happened on the weekend. It felt like it happened a lot because we played it way too safe.
Yeah. After 6 games, have you noticed what are some of the? Is there anything in the first 6 games that you're seeing which you're looking at as a bit of not an alarm bell, but something you're saying it needs to be fixed pretty soon?
Yeah, tactically, when the corridor is cut off, our inability to break that down and to force the press forward and to open the press up and open the corridor up when the opposition try to clamp it down, and the inability to be able to use our width. That could be personnel, our inability to be able to use the width, because I know Cottrell was good against Port Adelaide, but his game on the weekend was abysmal. And Nunes he's just simply not good enough. He's not fast enough to play that wing role, and I don't think he has enough influence on the game. It doesn't hurt you going forward of centre. And I think tactically, as I said, the ability to move the ball through the middle and break opposition teams down systematically. I don't think we've been able to do that for the last maybe 3 weeks. There have been those massive, massive momentum swings where we've been able to just crush opposition in a 15-minute patch, which is exciting. It's fantastic. And that's going to be, the best type of football that we do play when hopefully it all comes together. But I think you've got to get the balance right between this crazy surge mentality where you kick 6 or 7 goals in a 8 to 9 minute period, balanced up with when it's not going your way, you've got to mitigate the damage and then get that momentum back.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the one for me that's been standing out. Wildy's brought it up. The 2-way running is not instilled yet. I think this is a good. I thought early, the first couple of rounds, I thought it was good, and I think it's dipped away over the last few weeks. I'm not seeing the same guys in the same positions I were getting to in the first few weeks defensively.
Look, personally, I think the 2-way running's a bit. I think it's an overrated facet of the game. To be honest,
why is that?
I just think because there's 18 people on the field, and your ability to be able to set up behind the ball. I think you like the way and the analysis that Pommy and I sort of go with is if you've got players that are going to run forward of the ball and that's their strength, I think you can set up players in behind that to be able to cover that off, because if that's your strength, you've got to try to amplify that. And I actually think I actually think our midfielders are a little bit too defensive at the moment. I think we've got that good defensive line in a guy like George Hewitt, but I think it's more about the way you set up rather than the two-way running, if that makes sense. I think if you set up well as an 18 on the pitch, like that two-way running, I mean, I think our midfield, like Cripps, I don't think does it, but I don't think that's his go. I know you've got to be accountable for your player, but I think if your strength is running forward of the ball, that's okay, but you've got to have stopgaps in behind you, and that's where a bloke like Lockie O'Brien, I think we haven't utilised well, because I don't think his defensive running is absolutely amazing. But if you get someone in behind him, like a Doherty, to say, look, if you're pushing forward of the ball and you're running one way, Lockie, I'm going to be there behind you to protect you, because I know that you're probably not going to be able to get back, but what we're going to get from you going forward is such a strong facet, you know, it's going to be so integral to the way we set up as a team going forward. So I think because there's 18 players on the field, I just think that two-way running thing is a little bit, I think it's a little bit overrated, just personally from my point of view, just because there's so many players on the field and you can structure that up and you can sort of not hide it, but you can make up for that deficiency, if that makes sense tactically.
Well, I completely disagree, because that's something that was a big issue for us last year and how we got so exposed. If you go back to the North Melbourne game, our inability to run back the other way is what allowed that corridor to be so open. Like, yeah, I understand there's 18 blokes on the field, but there's only 6 blokes behind the centre stoppage.
I think
you need to be getting back.
Yeah,
and to be honest, they haven't been running as hard in the last 3 weeks as what they did the first 3, in my opinion.
I don't know if they haven't been running as hard. I'd love to see their GPS numbers and see like heat maps and stuff and all that. I haven't gone into that depth with it at the moment, but I think last year was a case of, and David Teague just continually said it, we want to attack, we want to attack, we want to attack, we want to attack. And we kept continually attacking and attacking and attacking. And by the time the ball got out the back, we had so many players. How high was the press last year? That's why I think we were getting done out the back.
Well, I'll tell you the other thing that I noticed in round 6, our whether it was in their own heads. There's one contest that really sums it all up. It was early in the game, and this isn't just to go out Will Setterfield, but it was the contest where Lewis Young was outmarked by Darcy.
Yes,
Setterfield needs to be coming over the top there and spoiling that, and that's my point. We're not getting back and helping out like we were as that unit, that connected unit in the first 3 weeks. That's what I'm noticing. Those little things there, working little bit harder to get to that contest and provide an option and get the numbers to the contest defensively.
No doubt, I think we can work harder. No doubt. You can always improve in that facet. And I don't think the blokes out there on the field were working as hard as they had during those big wins, or those 2 wins that we had earlier in the year against Richmond and the Western Bulldogs. But I just still think that I think the way you set up structurally, positionally is just much more important than up and back and up and back and up.
So how do you set up to prevent it? What's the setup then?
Well, if I was a coach, I'd know.
But it's easy to say set up. But what is the way to set up?
Yeah, I think the way to set up is, as I said to you, I think when you've got those attacking players and attacking wingers and attacking midfielders and attacking forwards, because we do see Durden get all the way to the back pocket, which is really, really interesting. And I think that's something in the coaches department that's saying, look, if your back pocket or your half back is going to sprint up the field, you've got to go with him. And that is that two-way running as well. But it's also, and as I said to you, with a guy like a Lockie O'Brien and with a guy like, say, for argument's sake, like a Paddy Cripps, I think he is able to do what he's able to do because he's got blokes in behind him now. He's got Hewitt in behind him to protect him when he does go forward. So he's got that knowledge in his head to say, okay, well, I know Hewitt's setting up on the defensive side of me, so I can run forward without having to get back because I know I've got that protection of my teammate behind me. I don't think it's just incumbent on the individual to be running forward and then running back when you're required to. Well, not when you're required to, but trying to get on that defensive end. But I think, as I said, with a guy like Lockie O'Brien, his ability is get forward and attack, use your left foot as a weapon, get forward of centre. And to have someone in behind you, I think, is the key. So I think that is a facet of the game that we need to add layers in. So those attacking players getting forward and having a defensive stopgap in behind them being a player, something like that, something akin to that type of setup.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll agree to disagree.
Let's move on. I think defensive running is absolutely one of the hallmarks of this game moving forward. But let's move on to the votes. 3 2s and 1s for you in the audience. Paul, what about you?
Yeah, 3 for Patrick Cripps, 2 to Doherty, and I'm going to give one to Lewis Young. I thought he was okay on the weekend.
Thought he was. You know what? He was very good on the weekend.
He took 10 marks. He went forward. He kicked the goal. Like he's had his work cut out for him the last couple of weeks. So I thought I'd chuck him in for a vote. I thought he was not too bad. So Doherty's he's just defying logic. This bloke, mate. He's just week after week he rocks up, and he was the only one that was really having a dip and trying to take the game on at halfback. So we saw it in the first quarter when he sort of come inside with a few kicks. So. I think Lewis Young has filled a role, but again, he's just got to start to have a little bit more confidence, ball in hand. I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went with Cripps for the 3. I think that's a unanimous one for all of us.
Oh yeah, I think he'll get the 3 votes in the Brownlow.
Well, he did get the 10 coaches' votes. He was the only Blue to get a vote, and he got all 10 of them for the coaches' votes today. So, I thought Ches was good. I gave him the 2 and I gave Doc the 1. Just on Ches, I'll tell you what, before the game, I was sort of bracing myself for a so-so performance back in Perth, hostile. I was pleased to see his ability to play through the hostility. I think that's a really good characteristic, I think, for his professionalism and his preparation week to week.
Yeah, I think so as well. And he found a lot of the ball, and you heard them booing. But what I think was really interesting with him was that, and you heard them during the week, I think they asked Hamill and Hansen about him, and they're like, he's nothing really phases him, and he just goes out there and does the job. I think he's one of those blokes where as soon as he does go out there, you cross the line and the crowd just. I know he said he enjoyed or loved. He got the vibe off our home fans, but I think when you're doing a job, you're out there and winning the ball. I think he looks like the consummate professional, but. I think the one thing, I don't know if it's a knock on his game, but do you feel he's really hurting opposition? That makes sense. Is he damaging by foot? If that makes sense.
I don't think he's fully settled in yet. If that makes I don't think he's fully settled into how our forwards are moving to him. That's the other thing I want to bring up. I'm trying to think. How often do we see Harry and Charlie leading at the football?
Never.
Why?
I think I've seen it once this year where I think Durden took a mark at around about half forward. Who was it against? Hawthorn? Yeah, I think it was against Hawthorn.
Yeah.
It was against Hawthorn. It was at the G, and then he's wheeled around Durden and, he's pinged Harry out in the lead. Harry done the point to his right and hit him up on the lead. But other than that, maybe Charlie a couple of times. But I think that the lead that you're talking about is the one from 15 out, bang, hit it out at 35 meters out, almost directly in front, mark on the lead, go back and have the shot. I don't think we've really had a lot of it.
When I notice the good teams become the great teams, that's the big difference of what I've seen with Melbourne, the way they kick the ball inside 50. Geelong's a great example of it. They've been so good at it for so long. When I watch Hawkins and now Jez, like the amount of shots they generate from marks on the lead, and that's where I sense this. Is it an immaturity of the group? Is it a disconnect between mids and forwards? Is it just not being able to be better than the defensive schemes that we're coming up against? I'd love to see us get better at that. That's something I think we can get better at pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's just those forwards now understanding where they want to be and where they have to go and the ability to be able to create leading lanes. That's such a big way. It's such a big facet in how your forward line functions properly. I mean, you talk about like easy goals. It feels like we don't get a lot of easy goals, if that makes sense.
Not even.
We struggle to. Yeah, we grind away. But when it does come, it comes quickly, which is strange.
Yes, absolutely. Let's touch on the ruck situation on a high level a bit more, because we know Pito is likely to look like he's going to be missing for a bit. So
Yep.
The situation right now, and a little bit of talk came this week about can we play Murkov? We'll talk about that in a sec. But hindsight's a wonderful thing. But I remember the noise about it at the end of last year in needing to get another ruckman, a senior body in there for a situation like this. Having said that, I would have thought by round 6, 2022, if you had told me at the end of last season that this would happen, I'd be saying, yeah, well, Tom should be ready to play. What do we need to be looking out for here, and how do we move forward with this situation now? Because I'm not sure if Tom is fully fit to play out 4 quarters at a high level like we need him to.
Do you think that maybe him focusing, because I feel like there's a 50-50 split between him focusing on his forward craft and his ruck craft. Do you think that might have taken away from his ability to become a senior, fully fledged ruckman? Because I don't think Pitnet's spending 50% of time up in the forward half. So how are you going to become a number one ruckman if you're split between 60-40 ruck or 50-50? I think that's been the development issue, really.
It's so strange because I've noticed the narrative of Tom go from this is going to be our future number one ruckman. This is the guy. Many of us probably even thought as early as round 1 this year, Tom's playing in the number one ruck spot. Now the narrative seems to be changing to, well, no, actually he's a bit of a ruck forward, not so much of a ruck. But as it stands right now, as we go into next week, I'm assuming that Tom's going to be our number one ruckman for 75% of the game.
Yeah, correct. And I think the interesting one too was that, I think Voss said, he goes, we think he's going to be our number one ruckman in time, or whatever that means. And then he's coming this week and they've said he's replaced Jack Silvani. So, well, how does that work? Like, if he's going to be our number one ruck and he's replacing a half forward flanker, it just didn't really make sense to me. So I think we need to, and Pommy and I mentioned this on the investigation thing that we did, the PPI, that we needed to go out and target a ruck of about that 28 to 30-year-old age bracket to fill the gap for maybe sort of the next 2 years. Doesn't have to be a bloke that's going to play every week. But if someone does go down, he can just come in and fill a gap for, a month, month and a half, which is what we need. So maybe in the mid-season draft, they can go down to the VFL and potentially look at someone or look at someone in the mid-season draft. Not too sure who it could be, but potentially at the end of the season, they could go for, we know Nick Natanui's contract is, I think he's a free agent or something at the end of the year. So he could potentially be someone that we look at. I know he's injury prone and would be asking for a bit, but, a year or two out of him to be a potential guy to come in and play that role could be. But I think we need to get someone in that 28 to 30-year-old age bracket.
Yeah. I mean, it also depends on the ruck that you're coming up against. Now, I'm not trying to disrespect Tristan Sherry this week because that's burnt me in the past with disrespecting ruckman, but Darcy's a different type of ruckman to be thrown to the Wolves at. I know Goldstein plays for North still, but he doesn't play much in the ruck. He might play 25-30% of the game in the ruck. He's more of a forward for them now. They're moving forward with Sherry. So this week I'm not overly worried about it because I would hope Jack Silvani's going to come back as well. And I saw Will Setterfield in the ruck a few times too. That was
wow. That just reminded me of the Wiedering at full forward days, man.
Oh no,
that was just like, that's not square pegs in round holes. That's a completely different game. That's like
in his 50th, it just wasn't his night. Will, listen,
Will, look, it's your 50th game for the club, mate. Do you mind stepping in the ruck and going up against Sean Darcy for a couple of minutes? Yeah, not great seeing that happen. But look, maybe, I don't know, maybe Murkov can come in and do a job. I don't know. I think he's still way too raw. I think it'd be a huge baptism of fire for him to be playing, I think, AFL so early in his career.
Yeah, agreed.
But I will say, he has come on leaps and bounds in the preseason. His kicking, ability to use the ball, his footy smarts, getting to the front of the contest and getting those big long arms up. I think they're almost going to have to play him if they want to implement this 2 ruck system. I don't think. Look, personally, I don't think they will, but they might get to a point where we're like, well, we want this 2 ruck system to work, and we want him in. So he's there to play AFL, isn't he?
That's true. Look, if you're on the list, that means you're eligible to play if you're available.
And heaven forbid, what if the conning goes down? Who are you going to play? You got to play him then.
Touch wood.
touch wood. Well, touch wood, but it's
no, you're right.
It's a situation where we are eventually going to have to play him.
Yeah, let's move on to the reserves because this week there was a good performance, a strong finish.
Yep.
And some people have really put their hands up for selection. So what did you take of the reserves?
I've got the results down here. Yeah, big win, 93-74. It was, I think, from a team perspective, the game was. I think Werribee had the better of it for 3 quarters, and I think scores were. I think we led that 3-quarter time by a point, or scores may have been even, but I think Werribee was playing the better football. But they just held in, and I thought Jack Carroll was. He was. I think he was best on ground. He had 27 and 2 goals. He was fantastic. Lockie O'Brien responded really strongly after a little bit of a down week against Richmond in the VFL. So I think, honestly, I think he comes straight back in the team. I cannot see why he doesn't come straight back into the senior team. And I loved his. And I think I made mention of this last year when he was down in the reserves. His leadership, man, like.
Lockie.
Pointing and Lockie O'Brien barking out instructions, pointing, setting up. I want to look. I mean, you can't really see that at AFL level if you're not looking for it. But when you're at VFL, the community ground, you're so tied in, you can see it. I want to see that from him at AFL level, mate. If you see someone out of position, mate, tell the bugger, mate, you're not in the right spot. You should be here. You should be there. So he was good, and Liam Stocker. If he's not a Monty to come into the side this week, I don't know when he is, mate. He had 27 touches, and he just does things. There were 2 passages of play where he went back with the fly. He just got cleaned up. He got walloped, but he stopped the goal, stopped the mark inside 50. And then a passage of play late in the game where he was under the cosh right in the back pocket. He had a bloke right up his ass, and he's just hit this 50-meter kick straight out. I can't remember who he hit, but it was lace out. Relieved all the pressure, and we don't have that down there. And Stocker's going to be the bloke. I mentioned our defenders not being daring with ball in hand and taking that kick. We know Stocker's going to take the kick. We know he's going to take the risky kick because he can pull it off. And he's not scared, mate. He's brave.
Well, there's a couple of names in the twos that have, I would say there's 4 of them that are really standing out to come in this week or to be made available. I think Carroll was one, Stocker was one, Motlop was one, and Lockie O'Brien was the other.
Yep.
I'm mindful of being too knee-jerk reacty, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I'm mindful of that. But what's the balance between dropping 2 to make a statement or dropping 4 to make a statement?
Yeah, I think it could be because there are a lot of blokes down on Saturday night that could easily have a line through their name this week. And I would not mind that at all. Like, if you're going to make a statement, make it early in the season and make it known that, boys... It doesn't matter if it's now or later in the season where we're not tolerating this stuff. So it's happened twice now. They made the necessary changes after the Gold Coast game, and it worked. We got the 4 points a week after. I think we're going to see something similar. I think we're going to see. I honestly think there's going to be 5 to 6 this week.
Wow.
I think there's going to be 5 to 6. I think there are a lot of blokes down there, and I know Dow on numbers had a bit of a down day. He only had the 16 disposals, but he was hard tagged out of it. I think it was disappointing too because he was really working through those hard tags really well throughout the first few games of the season. So, but I think we need to inject a guy like him into the midfield to add just a little bit more of a dynamic nature to the midfield, that run and burst. So, look, honestly, there's 4 or 5 blokes that could come in, and Fogarty had 20 touches as well in that small forward role. But maybe Motlop does come in for Durden or Owies. I thought they were really disappointing on Saturday night. And that small forward spot we know is up for grabs.
Yeah, it's one that's very easily interchangeable when you've got Motlop up and about. Honey's back like soon, right? Like he should be.
I think he will be back this week. I think he will be back this week in the VFL.
Yeah, so he's probably going to need a month-ish in the VFL.
Correct. Match fitness, getting back into actual form, finding touch. So he's probably 2, 3, 4 weeks away, I'd say, from pushing a case in the senior spot if fitness and form permit.
Yeah. I've got a big list change here. Is
Goodness
this something like what you're
gracious
wanting to see?
Here we go. How many omitted? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2. Hey, it could very well be it. It could very well be it.
Yeah.
Mate, and those are the exact, mate, that is perfect from Daniel. That is absolutely perfect. Those are the names right there that are all up for omission. And those are the names there that all can be included in the side this week. Well, we know Kennedy and Silvani, if they're fit, will be included. And the rest are all up for the rest. The rest can all be picked. Definitely.
Yeah. I'm curious to see where the coaching group will go, because it is a bit of a game with this coaching group now, because again, this is, like you said, this is the second loss. Buttons really get pushed in losses, and you really get challenged in losses. And this is also part of the process of Vossi learning the individuals that he's coaching and them learning about him. And yeah, it's all good when you haven't lost a game and you're playing well in the preseason and you're reviewing games after wins. And but now that things are really exposed, and I don't think we have yet, touch wood, had a really amongst the fan base, I should say, a really what's the word, like a real angry vibe about us yet, because we're ahead of the ledger ultimately.
Yes.
Yeah, we're a little bit disappointed in the inconsistencies and letting teams back in and 6-goal runs and all of that, but ultimately we're ahead of the ledger and we're comfortably ahead of the ledger. I think if that ledger starts evening up and we start getting to 4-4, 4-5 kind of thing, I think that's a whole different type of pressure the club will face.
Winning absolves all problems, Terry. We know that. You win and everyone shuts up, mate. It's simple as that, really.
Yeah, well, that's right.
My head says 5-3. My heart will say 6-2. The bookies will say 6-2. The bookies will have us favourite against North Melbourne. They'll have us favourite against Adelaide, and we will be expected to win both games. The tipping competitions, everyone will be tipping us against North Melbourne. Everyone will be tipping us against Adelaide. We are expected to win both games, regardless of injuries, regardless of tactics, regardless of any of that. We are expected to win both games, and I expect us to win both. I expect us to be 6-2. There is no anything other than that, for me, is unacceptable. We are ahead of North Melbourne. We are ahead of Adelaide. Period. That's it.
I totally agree with that. And I was thinking about it today, and I think I messaged you and Fab.
Oh, yeah, you did. Yeah, Fab and I. Yeah.
I was pretty calm after Freo, I'll admit, but and I've also run with the line of you got to respect your opposition, and I do respect North, but there will be scenes if we lose this week. Scenes.
As you say, I dare them to lose on Saturday night.
Yes,
lose on Saturday night. See what happens.
Yeah.
See what happens.
I
don't think they will.
No, I don't think they will.
But I don't think it's going to be a canter job. I think it's going to be a grind. I think it's going to be like an 80 to 55 or like a 90 to 65, something like that. Because I think North are going to sit back because they've been thumped the last 2 weeks. But I think it's a perfect rebound game for us to get some winning form back, I think.
I went and
can't take them lightly. Can't take them lightly.
Of course. And they're the type of team, very much like last year, you give them a sniff that they can beat you and they'll take it. And they did it to us last year and embarrassed us. And that was one of the many bad performances that we had last year. But this week needs to be I'm looking at it and I'm like, it needs to be a professional outfit. It's a job this week.
Yeah.
You go out there and do what you're meant to do.
Do you feel that we've had any of those type of wins this year?
No.
It's strange, isn't it? Like, I don't think we've had a game where we've systematically, completely broken down a team and you've thought, geez, mate, they come to work today. Yeah. They had a crack for pretty much the whole 120 minutes. So I think it's just incumbent of where we're at as a footy club too. And there's still a lot of players in there that are, relics of the past, really, when you look at it. And there is one thing too, and Pommy did some good work with some stats for me just before I came on. And I didn't make mention of it in the review we did of the round 6 game. But there's one thing I want us to focus on heavily this week against North Melbourne, because if Harry's not there, or if he is there, I think North Melbourne, I think we are going to continually we're going to try to beat teams early, which is okay. That's our sort of one wood at the moment. But I just went through the ground ball gets at the moment, and we're mid-table with ground ball gets. And I think that was, and I said on the weekend that our small forwards were just it just didn't seem to be like Fisher, Durden, and Owies were just. Did they seem non-existent on the weekend?
It didn't seem to be in the position. It didn't seem to be in dangerous positions.
No, and I think this game here was our second. It was our third lowest total for ground ball. We only had 15 ground ball gets in this game, and Hewitt was our leading ground ball get. He was our leading ground ball player in the game, which tells me that I'm like, geez, that's weird. In the first 3 rounds, it was always Fisher, Durden.
Mm-hmm.
Those were our, and we went 3 and zip. The small forwards were getting around, getting involved, getting to the fall of the ball. Didn't see it against Port Adelaide in the second half. Didn't see it against Freo for the majority of the game. I think our defenders are our small forwards are so worried about opposition transition that they're sitting too far back. And Harry and Charlie are going to compete in the air. And they brought it to ground, and there's no one there. There's no one there. They're trying to get the gimme out the back, mate. Get front and center, boys. So that's an area of the game I think we need to really, really notch up. And the 2 teams that are right up there at the moment, Melbourne sit third for it and Sydney sit first. And I'd argue to say that those are the 2 teams that are going to potentially play off in a minimum prelim, potentially GF this year.
Yeah. Well, we touched on those changes that were given to us earlier, but for anybody else in the audience watching, let us know if there are any other changes you should make. I mean, we did mention Cottrell, Noons. I'm just mindful of bringing him in for 1 week or 2 weeks and dropping them. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I don't have the benefit of really knowing what's going on, but they did play well last week, and they had an even contribution in the sense of 1 really good, 1 really bad. Is it even? Do you play, or is it punishment after 1 bad game?
No, I don't think it is, but I think that small forward role, and I'm continually adamant that small forwards they are just going to have games where they're ghosts. You see with the best small forwards, it just happens. But I still think there is. I still think that spot is up for grabs. I don't think any of those 3 have completely locked that spot in. I think if there is one, it's probably Durden. I think because he really brings the heat from a tackle pressure point of view, and I think that is an area of the game that we just like tackles inside forward 50. We were just horrendous in last year, and you need to be getting that. You need to be getting that area of your game right up. And I think Durden does bring that in spades. I think he brings that the best out of the 3 that are in the team at the moment, inclusive of Fisher and Owies. But I think why not play Motlop? I think it's a perfect game to play someone like him and just give Owies or Durden a breakdown in the. I'm not fussed if they're playing reserves.
Yeah,
go down, get your touch.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's all right. Go back, get your touch.
Yeah, I agree with that. Totally agree with that. I think also injecting some fresh energy into the group from time to time. Look, I think we're now well and truly in the thick of the season. The first few weeks, you're buzzing off adrenaline. It's been a long preseason. You've been playing against each other for all the preseason. You just want to play against opposition. We've done that. Started well. I think now we're well and truly into the thick of it, and now is when that grind starts to really take over in the niggles. And Matt Kennedy obviously just missed this week because they just said soreness. I don't know anything more than that, but this is where the management component of the season starts to take over.
And I think Matt Kennedy, I reckon he copped a real bad cork ear and knock in the Gold Coast game, because from that game to the Port Adelaide game, he played with a strap compression bandage up in his right leg, and he just looked like he lost the ability to spread and cover the ground. So I think the week off will do him the world of good. So I think we'll see a much improved performance from him on the weekend with that little break. But I'm just looking through all the numbers here against North, mate. We're miles ahead of them uncontested possession. We're a much better. We're a much better football team than them on the park and on paper. But the problem is that it's just half of it's up here and half of it's tactics as well.
Yeah.
You've got to rock up. And this is a game where, I feel if we get one of those big momentum surges of, 6-7, we go 6, 7, 8 goals up, I don't think we're going to be letting them back in. But again, if we give them a sniff throughout the game and it's one of those ding-dong battles, this is their grand final pretty much every year. We saw what they did to us last year. They pulled our pants down, mate.
I sense this game will have most people unhappy regardless. It'll just be one of those, even if we win by 8 goals, it should have been 14.
Yeah.
But what I'm hoping to see this week is to get get a good start, get ahead. We know we're capable of doing it, and run away with it if we do get ourselves in that position. Don't just stop. Don't let that momentum seep back in to the level that we have this year. Because I've been to 2 or 3 North Melbourne games this year, mate. They butcher the ball. They butcher the ball, and sometimes you can. I don't want this to sound disrespectful to North, but how sometimes you can sort of play down to your opposition.
Yeah.
If we start falling into
their
that
level. Stoop to their level, yeah.
If we fall
I know what you
into
mean.
that trap, I think we are going to be in trouble. But I trust that we've got a better, more mature, better coached group and a better prepared group.
Yeah, and that they are coming off, as I said, 2 10-goal losses. So there's going to be some sort of a response early from them and trying to really get up on us. But I still think that they're going to try to set up a defensive style to really, they want to make the game ugly. That's what they want to do. They want to stop us from getting the ball on the outside, and we need to get the ball live. Keep the ball live. Get it on the outside. Get the run and carry going. Isolate your forwards one-on-one, and that's how you kill them. That's what we haven't done in the last 3 weeks. We haven't got the ball to the outside. We haven't kept the ball live. We haven't taken those risky kicks. And North Melbourne are going to allow you to do it. You need to make the most of it. And our percentage is shot at the moment.
It is. So, big week ahead. Let's talk about tomorrow morning. Well, tomorrow morning, I think the Almost Blues Brothers are filming, or they're recording as we speak. So that should be out tomorrow.
Yes.
Jumper Punch tomorrow at 8 p.m.
Massive.
There's a very special guest, I hear.
There is a special guest for tomorrow, and the promo did go up. Dave Glascott, episode Dave Glascott, number 32.
Stand by.
So, stand by with that. And we have a big special guest. If you haven't seen the Instagram feed, Fab from the Ian Prendercast has joined us on the couch. I'll tell you what, I reckon Rocco's going to have to replace the legs on that couch, mate, because 3 big Italian fellas on that couch, mate. I reckon the legs are wonky after that. So it was an absolute marathon of a show. I'll tell you what, I reckon they're going to have to be setting up the pillows tomorrow night, because I reckon this was the best show we've done. I reckon this was exciting. It was just, the vibe was just, mate, like, it's incredible. 3 Northern Suburbs.
You just knew Fab would fit in, though. You just knew it.
Mate. Well, he just fit in. We all just fit in. The show, we definitely fit in. The room, we all just fit in. All 4 of us. So, no, it was a really good show. Really, really good. I know we lost, and we got involved in some very, very, very in-depth and angry and happy discussion, which was good. But we had an interview today that we did. With a former, he is a Carlton Premiership player. He's a 3-time Carlton Premiership player, and he is an absolute legend of the club, an icon of the club. He had some very choice words to say about certain things that had been happening over the club over the last few years. But he was also positive with what has happened in the first 6 weeks. And the one thing he said, there were 2 things I picked up from him today. One was when Ron Barassi came to the club, and it's still relevant now, you want to see continual improvement. You can improve yourself in any facet, even if you're winning. Go out and improve your health. Go out and improve your relationships with people. Go out and improve a relationship with someone at the club, because he said relationships are everything in football. And the other thing I really took in was he said, if you can't compete and if you're not ruthless, you shouldn't play. Period.
Love it. Wow.
So this will be coming up within the next month, and it's probably the best interview I think we've done with the legends of the Jumper Punch. So stand by.
Very exciting. Well, let me play the little Glascott promo here.
Hi there, I'm David Glascott, number 32, the Carlton Football Club. Well, I used to wear number 32. I thought winning 3 premierships would be the highlight of my life, until I was interviewed by the boys from the Jumper Punch, 8 p.m. on a Tuesday night. Make sure you watch it. Thanks a lot.
How good.
Fantastic.
I love it. Like these past players they just want their story to be told. I think the club has missed a little bit of that. So, mate, we're here to do it. Let's not worry about the club, mate. They want to come to us.
I sense the club have focused on the future more than what, and which I actually totally agree with. Totally.
Yeah, of course.
But
That's fine.
when it comes to the premiership players of the past, you can't let them just fall to the wayside. I think they're the stories that are, that I think they're the stories that pass down what the culture of the club is to the future.
Who do you learn from?
Well, correct. The history books in the past tell you,
exactly right. Exactly right. So, and that was also made mention of today too. So keep an eye out for this. And it's just nice to have these past players come on and tell their stories. And they're telling us things that we've never heard of before. Funny stories out at the club and outside of the club with their mates. And there was a real camaraderie with a lot of them, and it's been fantastic. And Rocco has done an awesome job with it all, and Vince as well for organising all these interviews. Has been fantastic. So big shout out to both of those who have done fantastic work. So it's been brilliant. It's been brilliant.
He's come a long way, has old Rocco. He's come a long way.
He has come a long way. He called himself the wordsmith from Reservoir today. So he won't mind me saying that. I think we've all sort of opened up as as individuals too on this platform, and Mars has opened up. It's improved my work too. And Rocco's doing his thing as well. So it's been good fun. So this weekend on Saturday, quick little update. I will be commentating the Carlton North Melbourne reserves game at Icon Park for the AFL website. So I'll be up there in the grandstand. So if you want to come up and in the old hero stand, come say hello. I'll have some breaks there at like half time and then 3/4 time and after the game. So if you're there, come up and say hello. So if not, tune into the stream and you'll hear my lovely tonsils going at it.
Amazing. So what time will that be?
I think it's at 2:05, I believe. I'll tell you the exact time right now. I think it's a 2:05 p.m. game right before our Marvel Stadium game. So it's great because it leaves time for us to watch the game at Icon and then get to the ground at Marvel Stadium for the 7:30 game. It's 2:05 p.m. at Icon Park this Saturday. So if you get down there, come say hello. If not, tune into the AFL website and you'll hear me going for it. So looking forward to it.
That's exciting. That's very exciting. Yeah. Well, Paolo, love you, mate. Thanks very much for coming on tonight. Ladies and gents, big week this week. Big response. Yes. See what this club's all about this week and what this new group and this new regime have got for us. So stay tuned. Also, one last thing. The PPI Part 3, the investigation, it is going to air on Friday at 6 p.m. It's locked in. I thought about doing it tonight, and I thought, just let it have its own breath. So Friday, 6 p.m., Part 3. A lot of you have been asking about this investigation.
Yep.
Paolo, just give us a quick rundown. What are we covering, and what are we closing off here in Part 3?
Yeah, so the first two parts were obviously we looked back at the past and what the draft was, and then we looked at Part 2 was where we were in the present after we'd sacked David Teague, sort of numbers and where we really needed to improve. And then Pommy and I went to the present. So what Voss has implemented and his coaching staff have implemented over the preseason. And it was we did it after the Hawthorn win. I think it was when we went 3-0, or it was after the Bulldogs game. So we looked at the numbers and the facets of the game that we really needed to improve to become a premiership team. Really, it's called the AFL Godprint, which is credit to Pommy, and thanks to him for putting all these analytics and stats together. And there's some really, really big spikes and big elevations in certain areas that we really needed to get better in. And now it's just about sustaining it, really. So it's a really good insight into what's currently happening at the club and where the coaches have addressed certain problem areas with our club from last year coming into this year. So it's a really intriguing watch, and it will be a very intriguing watch this Friday. So you're gonna hear my voice all week. You've heard it tonight. You're gonna hear it on Friday, and you'll hear it on Saturday.
Can't get enough, mate. We can't get enough. We cannot get enough of you.
I'm starting to get sick of myself. It's good fun. It's good fun. Thanks for tonight, and thanks for everyone. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
See you guys. Go Blues.